Hello and welcome to the Republic of Football. I'm your host, Ishmael Johnson, alongside Carter Yates, our staff writer. What's up, man?
We're scrambling a little bit at the mothership right now.
Scrambling?
We just had a quarterback announcement.
Yeah, speaking of scrambling, SMU needs their quarterback to scramble, so they have made a very big decision. Before we get into that, though, Mallory Hartley on the other side of the glass. Hi, Mallory.
Hi, y'all. I'm doing really well today. North Texas and Michigan State, both heading into week 3, 2-0. So I'm pretty excited. Pretty excited college football fan. So
if I did not care about the listeners at home, I would look up literally when the last time that was. Both your teams 2-0.
Well,
I don't want to know.
UNT was 2018, just them.
Yeah, sure. I'm talking about both. Yeah.
Michigan State, I don't really know.
I don't know. Yeah, we'll see.
I don't think we were 2-0 last year.
As we mentioned, SMU decided that they need their quarterback to move around because their offensive line stinks. So they named Kevin Jennings as the starting quarterback going forward. What was, I believe, the exact phrasing of it.
Yep.
Red Lashley didn't say for the rest of the year. Obviously, they haven't they've had a de facto starter. I mean, like by definition, Preston Stone has started the
first 2 series.
Yeah, the first 2 series. But in both games, he's then not played the third series, and then they kind of feel out if he plays at all after that and whatever. Look, they have not looked good on offense. I think we can agree. There needed to be some sort of definitive answer there at quarterback. I was wondering how long it would take them before they just said, okay, we need to pull a ripcord and figure this out. It looks to be now, and I'm very curious to see what that leash is the wrong word because I don't want to feel like he's on a ticking time bomb or time clock, I guess. But they need results and fast.
The timing of this move was very important because it's the bye week, first of all, so he gets a full 2 weeks with the number 1 offense. Then they play TCU and FSU right after that, going into the meat of their conference slate. He said this isn't all about Preston, right?
Sure.
Preston Stone has not been super sharp the first couple weeks of the year. But you mentioned it off the top, Ish. The offensive line has not been solid whatsoever. They're still rotating guys in between drives.
Yeah.
And when you're adjusting to Power 4 football, it's been super leaky. That offensive line has been. So they need someone with more dual threat ability that Kevin Jennings has. And Preston Stone has it, but he's still rehabbing or was rehabbing all offseason from the broken leg.
Here's some numbers from their BYU game, which, of course, they ended up losing. Dropbacks for Preston Stone, 7. Pressures, 5, right?
Sacks.
Let me see. Sacks was... He didn't get sacked. At least... No, wait, sorry.
He got sacked.
He did get sacked.
He got big time
But I'm talking about 3 sacks out of those 5 pressures, right? Only 7 dropbacks.
Negative 24 yards on 7 dropbacks, basically.
Kevin Jennings, in that game, of course, he played most of the game. 35 dropbacks. Still, 15 pressures off of that.
And that's a BYU defense that was playing more zone coverage, too, when Kevin Jennings got in the game because they respected his dual threat ability more. When Preston Stone was in the game, they teed off.
Yeah. It resulted in Preston Stone throwing for 50%. Of course, only 2 of 4 passes. But Jennings, not much better. I mean, actually not better at all. 46%, right? Mm-hmm. So, again, this is an offense in need of a spark, an offense in need of receivers, kind of difference makers, I feel like, need to step up. Because right now, we're 2 years on. We're going on 2 years of R.J. Maryland being the only pass-catching threat.
Craven and I talked about it in the post-game wrap-up pod, but SMU's offense is rudderless right now. They don't have a number 1 wide receiver option. Most of the wide receivers are complaining about a non-existent pass interference call while the ball's still in the air.
Right.
R.J. Maryland has had 2 catches for 13 yards the past 2 games. They just need some sort of identity. This is a good first step.
Yep, 100%. All right, so as they said, they're on the bye week, so they will not be in our latter half where we discuss our games this week, but there will be something to keep an eye on going forward the rest of the season. All right, Mallory, let's go to the power poll this week.
I haven't looked at this at all. I'm excited to see it.
We have a little bit of shake-up here. A little bit of shake-up.
Yeah, we had some major movement. Not at the top necessarily, but in the middle and even at the bottom, we had some move.
Look at our alma maters, all in the top 5 there.
Look at that.
Look at that. Look at us. Who would have thought?
All right, Texas fan, you can calm down. Who would have thought us would have been there?
Yeah, you have no room to talk, Carter.
Yeah. Anyway, Texas State, North Texas, SMU, jumping SMU, I should say, I believe, from last week. But first of all, let's look at that top 5. Is North Texas the most surprising team you see there?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If this was in June or July, or even
No, because honestly,
2 weeks ago.
I wasn't super confident in North Texas beating South Alabama right out of the gate, week 1. So that's why I wouldn't have them in my top 5, probably in June or July.
That's fair. Okay. What about you, Carter?
The North Texas at number 5 is interesting to me. I think it's indicative of how down Texas as a state has been the first 2 years. I mean, the first few weeks of the season. This is a North Texas team that only had a 35-20 loss. 35-20 win to Stephen F. Austin. So not the biggest, 5 spot there.
What about UTSA dropping below Baylor?
I mean, look, this is a team that obviously the loss to Texas State, you and Craven talked about it, was not good for multiple reasons, but they also didn't look good against Kennesaw State.
They got punked by Texas State. They've been rocky for the first 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah, so I feel like they were only hanging on to that ranking because they ended up winning that Kennesaw State game, but they didn't look good in there. Some people may look at Houston and be like, oh, they're 0-2. How's it? Look, they pushed Oklahoma, right? I don't think this is a Houston team that we're expecting to be very good this year, but look, I think UTEP losing to an FCS team obviously makes them the bottom.
Yes.
Houston, I think that Oklahoma loss was about as good of a performance as we can hope for this year, probably in September. So I'm okay with them jumping a couple teams who may have a win on their docket. So. Alrighty, that's Power Poll. Again, you can check that every week, presented by Ticket City. Thank you guys for supporting us and allowing that little thing to get a little sponsor, because people look forward to that every week. So appreciate our friends at Ticket City for taking care of that. And speaking of friends, when we come back, we'll get to our spotlight games. But before we do, we have a message from our friends at Be Well, Texas.
Be Well Texas helps people who are struggling with the use of alcohol or drugs. They offer high-quality, science-based addiction treatment and recovery services anywhere in Texas. Find help for you or a loved one today.
Welcome to Be Well Texas. We're glad you're here. In many cases, there is no cost for treatment if you don't have insurance. Call 888-85-BE-WELL.
Continuing some messages from our friends. Speaking of more friends, Home Field Apparel, as you see right here, if you're watching, get the promo code right there, DCTF. We made it easier for y'all instead of me awkwardly pointing at the
easier on you, too.
Oh, it's
That's
easier on me.
tough.
It's very easier on me. Look, it's college football season, and if you are watching, you notice that I am wearing a very nice baseball Texas Tech tee. I got it from our friends at Home Field Apparel. If you want to get 10% off your first time purchase at Home Field Apparel, use promo code DCTF. It is very hard to find something you will not love, whether you support a Texas program or not, across the country. To FBS, Division II, they have so many things. Long sleeves, hats, they have bomber jackets, they're starting to put NASCAR gear out there too. I believe that if you're a Colts fan, they're based out of Indiana. I believe the Colts are their only NFL team, I should say. So again, if you want to find some of the best retro merch of your favorite college team, Home Field Apparel, they straight up don't miss. And I can
Straight up don't miss. I like
someone
it.
who has about 10 shirts. So thank you once again to our friends at Home Field Apparel. Remember, promo code DCTF for 10% off your first time purchase. Okay, Mallory, is this where I do a little option RPO read? Hand it off to you as I see the defender sitting on that route to the left of me.
No, I fumbled it. Oh. Just kidding. Just kidding. I don't fumble. All right, starting off strong. Let's get into our Week 3 state of the Texas college football season. UTSA playing at number 2, Texas, this Saturday, September 14th at 6 p.m. You can watch it on ESPN. Texas coming into this game as, anyone want to take a guess?
25-point favorites. Up 30-point favorites. No way. Stop that.
35-point favorites. The over-under 53 and a half. Guys, this game, kind of crazy. Texas, 35-point favorites. Initial thoughts.
Craven's taking his family to their first football game, and it's going to be Texas versus UTSA.
Yeah, that's crazy.
They're going to witness a massacre.
Craven's actually going to be at this game. I didn't know he was bringing his family to this game.
I'm just looking at. I'm still looking at the line because that's all shocked at him. We got to 35.
Yeah, y'all.
Look, UTSA's offensive line is garbage.
Yeah.
They looked awful against Texas.
Yeah.
And that's my alma mater. Like, I would love to just say that Texas State's pass rush is that amazing. And
Which is good.
they are good. Ben Bell is
Yeah.
good. Khalil Alexander
There's
is
a little
good.
bit of both.
They can block anybody.
Well, Mekhi Hart on the UTSA offensive line has had 2 back-to-back season-ending injuries. They're
Sure.
still hoping he gets back to full health by the East Carolina game. It will not be versus Texas.
Yeah.
Also, Venli Tatafu, who they consider maybe their second-best offensive lineman with Mekhi Hart, is questionable for this Texas game. I don't think he played versus Texas State, so that partially explains it. But this UTSA offense has not really been the same the last 2 years without Will Stein there as the offensive coordinator.
That's a good point. Yeah, they looked like they were floundering a bit. It looked like when Owen McCown's first read wasn't there. Well, honestly, again, he didn't have much time.
Yeah,
so,
when
like,
the first read wasn't there, he was sacked.
Right, exactly. So there was that. I will say the running game has also been one of the biggest surprises.
I think that's offensive line, though.
Probably. So fair enough. Look, if you're UTSA, what can you take from, because you're going to be 1-2 heading into next week. What can you take from this week besides no more players get hurt?
I think this could be the start of the championship DVD for UTSA.
Okay.
Like when you check into the beginning of the season, this is the lowest of the low it's going to get. 1-2, getting stomped by Texas State and Texas. If they come back and make it to the AAC championship game, this is where it starts. They've been in this situation before.
Yeah.
Last year, remember, they started 1-2. They were 1-3 last year.
They
They
were
got
1-3.
destroyed by Tennessee. Jeff Traylor had that quote about there's got to be an easier way to make a living, right?
Right.
But here's what they've done. Here's how they've bounced back. I'm going to read down this list. In 2020, they put up 3 points against FIU, then hung 52 on UTEP the next week. 2021 had a crushing loss to North Texas, 45-23. Then they go on to hang 49 on the Western Kentucky in the conference championship game. Last year was the 45-14 loss to Tennessee, put up 49 on Temple the next week. Here's the difference. They play number 2 Texas this week, who Traylor called the best team in the country, arguably the best team they've ever played since they've been here. And oh, by the way, they don't have Frank Harris to make some bailout plays.
I was about to say that. Yeah.
I mean, we just saw Texas walk into the big house and curb stomp Michigan mercilessly. After all that said about the offensive line for UTSA, that's not what I'm worried about.
And by the way, Trey Moore is on the other side too.
Trey
who
Moore's
was
on the
on
other
UTSA
side.
last year, was the AAC Defensive Player of the
as he
Year.
sheds a tear,
That's right.
as he about to rock Owen McCown on a breakaway blitz. He's going to shed a tear, like the Native American turning and seeing, like, as he realizes he's about to just destroy his former teammate. Look, that's not what I'm worried about on the offensive side, or the offense for UTSA. That defense is also not very good.
That's the concern, because they knew the offense was going to struggle a bit. They have 3 new offensive linemen, a new quarterback, 2 new wide receivers. The defense got gashed versus Texas
Denver
State.
Harris was struggling in that game. The guy that we thought, and I still think rightfully so, right? That could be a standout player on that defense. Obviously, it's still early September. He could still very much be. Dog, he was committing pass interference in the red zone. He was like slipping on some coverage. Texas has right now a machine. And that machine on offense is somehow scarier than the machine that's already looking scary on defense.
Let's talk about Texas.
Yes.
Because last week I sat up here scared to death about a 7.5 point spread against Michigan. And I want to say,
And then you saw Davis Warren throw a ball. You're like, oh, we're fine.
Yeah.
Steve Sarkisian said after the game, this is who we are now. And I'd encourage people that follow Texas to get that Arkansas loss from 2021 out of their mind, to get the Kansas loss in the 5-7 year out of their mind. And I'm talking to myself here too when I cover Texas, because I sat here all offseason and said, Michigan doesn't concern me. It's the Arkansas and Kentucky games.
Sure.
This is a different Texas football team, and I'll tell you why. Texas is the only program in the FBS to have 4 straight seasons of the same head coach, the same offensive coordinator, and the same defensive coordinator.
There you go.
That is the continuity right there that Texas did not have. The decade before this, they had 3 head coaches, 7 offensive coordinators in 10 years. Is a different Texas ball club this year.
100%. And I believe I saw a stat that Quinn Ewers is the first quarterback since 2020 to have 3 touchdowns, something like that, in the big house. So
Wow.
there you go. Like, look, this is a team that's locked in, loaded, and looking like, I mean, honestly, the SEC favorite right now.
And people, OU fans, are going to try to tell you that Michigan loss, that Michigan win isn't that impressive. They tried to tell you the same thing about the Alabama win last year.
They need to worry about...
And Alabama made the playoff.
Sure. And
They need to worry
scoring
about
points
beating
against
Houston more.
So, anyway,
That's what I just,
what's next?
That's same thought. Coming up next, Texas A&M traveling to play Florida this Saturday at 2:30 p.m. You can watch it on ABC. Texas A&M coming into the Swamp as 4-point favorites. Over under 47.5. I don't know if I agree with that line.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be the DJ Lagway show.
Ooh,
Well-
it might be time for the DJ Lagway experience to
Yeah.
Maybe, but Billy Napier's being very... Well, first of all, he named Graham Mertz as the starter again.
start. Oh,
Did you
he
guys
did?
see that?
Did he really?
Well, I thought they were going to split time this week.
I mean,
I did too.
We'll see if it's a
That's what I
Preston
saw.
Stone, Kevin Jennings situation, but he's named
Graham
Mertz
Hurts gets the
starter.
first 5 snaps.
Yeah.
He is our starter.
I mean, look, somebody threw up the graphic yesterday. DJ Lagway versus an FCS school, 18 of 25, 456, 3 touchdowns. Graham Mertz versus an FCS school, 14 of 17, 193, 1 touchdown.
Yeah, if you're Graham Mertz, it was worst case scenario playing the Miami game than being injured for Samford.
Yeah.
For DJ Lagway to come out and flex.
I think we can all agree that Florida's not very good. And so what do you have to lose? What do you have to lose other than the guy that's a truck with pads and can throw the ball for 400 yards and then potentially run over a linebacker?
Here's why this is terrifying for Texas A&M's side, because they are going to the Swamp
Oh,
versus a team that doesn't have anything to lose.
well, listen,
Yeah,
Cam Ward
right.
said it wasn't that bad.
That is very true.
No, Cam Ward got them angry now,
That's
too.
true. That's
Yeah.
The Swamp is pissed.
That's true.
And Connor Wigman, the last time he was out versus a big crowd against Texas A&M and Notre Dame, he didn't look all that comfortable.
He did. That's also true. Maybe it's the
And that was at
opposite
home.
effect. He needs to be in like a hostile environment.
Yes.
He can't do it. In
I was going to say, he was at home.
Yeah, I was
like
about to say, he can't do it in front of a friendly crowd. He has to do it in a more
like a
angry
hostile,
crowd.
yeah.
This is the
yeah.
Connor Wegman okay game.
That's fair because like it's hard to assess versus McNeese FCS program what exactly A&M is. I think I was happy to see them run the ball very well against McNeese, right? Like that because that was a thing that I wanted to weigh more heavily on Notre Dame's front seven being good as opposed to like A&M not being able to run the ball. So far, at least again, FCS little asterisk, but like okay, Mari Daniels, Le'Veon Bell, like they were able to move the ball a little bit. Offensive line was able to get things forward. Can they do that again against a Florida defense that's not very good?
And the offensive line was a question mark on this team coming into the season, but
Sure.
they are leading the SEC with only 4 tackles for loss allowed. Again,
Yeah.
Samford, FCS, asterisk, but the stats cool.
Sure, yeah, I get what you mean. All right, so what's next, Mallory?
Let's head to Fort Worth. TCU hosting UCF this Saturday at 6:30 p.m. You can watch it on Fox. TCU coming in as 0.5 favorites.
Did you
Over under 61.
Did you watch UCF last week against Sam Houston? They looked terrifying.
Wait, who?
UCF versus Sam Houston. UCF versus Sam Houston last week. UCF.
Oh,
is
I didn't know. I did not
UCF
watch that.
is terrifying.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
They steamrolled New Hampshire in their first win, of course, but like it was like a style game where you're like, hey, here's how we're gonna play, and it was awesome. KJ Jefferson fits so well in that
Dude,
offense.
they're averaging.
That's right.
They're-
KG Jefferson's there.
They're averaging 51 points a game right now. 838 rushing yards through 2 games, and KJ Jefferson hasn't even run.
I was about to say he's not even been there running.
No,
their
dude.
primary running threat.
It's RJ Harvey, who last year had 1,400 yards and 16 TDs, and Penny Boone, the 2023 MAC Offensive Player of the Year. They added that backfield.
Here's the thing: we don't know anything about this TCU defense yet.
Nope.
Right? It was week 1 against Stanford. Okay, they played fine. I thought they played fine. It was a lot better than last year. I think they lose that game last year with last year's defense, maybe. Nothing against Long Island. Like, okay, they shut them out. Cool. Again, maybe something that's different last year. Maybe they don't shut out Long Island last year. Maybe that's a positive. I don't know what to expect. Like, I can't say, yeah, that front seven's going to do really well against KJ Jefferson and Gus Malzahn's running offense. I don't know. All I know is I feel like I have more data points on UCF right now being, probably in the top half. Definitely in the top half of Big 12 contenders.
Yeah, I think this is the game we find out, is TCU a contender in the Big 12 or a pretender
Sure.
in the Big 12?
And I think we had this discussion yesterday on Monday in the office where it was like, how many right now in the state good quarterbacks do you think there are? As in, like, it doesn't have to be like elite or whatever. Just like there's a bucket that says good. As in, like, you would start with them tomorrow, right?
So let's talk about the good bucket right now.
The good bucket. I think it's Quinn Ewers,
Okay,
Jordan McLeod,
of course.
Chandler Morris.
Chandler Morris.
And
Josh
I think
Hoover.
I'm wanting to put Josh Hoover in there.
I
Right
need,
now,
I need
as
to
of
see
right
it.
now.
I need to see it this game.
I was about to say, that's
Yeah.
where I'm at. I want to put Josh Hoover in right now based off what we've seen against Stanford.
He's
and-
right outside the bucket right
Yeah,
now.
I'd say like I have him in my hand, about to put him in the bucket.
Yes. Yes.
And this is the game where I put him down. It's like, ooh, not yet. Or okay, throw him in.
He
Let's
had
go.
14 consecutive completions last week,
Yeah.
which tied a TCU record that was set in 2006. Again, I know all these stats are against
Hey,
FCS teams. Who cares?
They played FCS teams before, so like, and it's still a record. So, yeah, like you said, I think he's good. I want to put him in the good bucket. Confirm that this weekend for me. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, and personally for this podcast, we need it because we've got not that many great quarterbacks.
I was about to say,
this
I
year.
think we also named all of our good quarterbacks in the state with that one.
We can count them on one hand right now, which is not the greatest thing.
That's very depressing.
A couple of storylines from this game.
Yep.
This is the first meeting between these two programs. The first time TCU's played a Florida team since 1992. So that's kind of interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, because they didn't play last year. That's right. Yeah.
Sonny Dykes, I know this is the national championship season, is taking up a lot of this stat, but he has reached 29 games. Through 29 games, he's reached 20 wins, the quickest out of any TCU head coach since Francis A. Schmidt in 1929 and 1930 and Dutch Meyer in 1934 and 1935.
Ask your grandpas.
Back in my day, Dutch Meyer would have had them boys
I was about
fired
to say,
up.
they had them boys playing.
I'd like to see KJ Jefferson go up against Dutch Meyer now.
Turned to dust. No disrespect to Dutch Meyer. What's next, Mallory?
Bobcats, time to show out. Texas State hosting Arizona State this Thursday, September 12th at 6:30 p.m. You can watch it on ESPN. Arizona State coming in as only 2-point favorites. The over-under is 58.5. Schmale, can GJ Kinney's squad get it done?
This game terrifies me. Because here's the thing that I did not necessarily expect was, one, obviously last week that happened in Texas State's favor. I also did not expect Arizona State to look this good this early.
Yeah,
They've
Kenny
looked-
Dillingham has turned it around right now.
If even as early as like a couple of weeks ago, I mean like a month ago, let's say, I was saying, oh yeah, that Arizona State's team is gettable, because I thought it'd be not exactly as bad as last year, but like, yeah, they're probably not going to a bowl, right? That's a team that you can kind of clip at the knees if you're a good G5 team. Man, Sam Levitt looks good. Like that defense.
Michigan
is pretty
State transfer.
solid. What was that?
He's a Michigan State transfer.
He is a Michigan
That's
State
gotta
transfer.
hurt. That's gotta hurt.
Their running game is insane. Like I think
Yeah.
let me
They're
see,
pretty good.
Cam Scatabo had 262 yards last week against an SEC team in Mississippi State.
He's averaging 7 yards a carry this season. That's
And
deadly.
he's a big dude, too.
Yeah.
He's scary.
And I mean, look, we can play the remember this guy game. Xavier Alford.
Oh, wow. What a blast from the past. Is this his seventh school now?
Yeah, yeah, probably. CJ Fight. Shout out Tatum, Texas. Prince Dorba we talked about.
Yeah,
This
shout out Prince
This is
Dorba.
a team full of dudes, and I think the worry for me was that those dudes would start to remind people why they're dudes. And Arizona State, I think Kenny Dillingham was a good hire. It was just a rebuild / build up hire. I didn't expect year two to be this good. Wyoming, who I do think will be pretty good this season, they looked really, really good. Gave them no chance at all, 48-7 in their opening game. So.
And that Mississippi State game, by the way, it's only 30-23, but they were up 27-3 at halftime versus
Yeah.
Mississippi State.
I'm very interested in seeing Texas State's front seven in this game, because they're going to have their hands full with an offensive line that's done well in both pass pro and the run game. Ben Bell's going to – this is the game where we find out if – I mean, I believe Ben Bell's a Sunday player. This is the game where we find out how highly regarded of a Sunday player I think he is, because he is going to be there's going to be a lot on his plate getting home. That's what Dexter McCoy's like to do from continuing from Pat Key's defense last year. He's called up a lot of blitzes, a lot of exotic things in the front seven, and he's gotten home a lot, especially last week. Can they do that against a team that has bigger players, maybe more talented players? Offensively, I can't see that. I still have that third quarter of Lamar in my head, too, to where I'm like,
You need to get it out of your head, dude.
I know.
They didn't show anything versus Lamar. They were running
That's
on
true,
like
that's fair.
5 plays.
that's fair. Maybe, yeah. They played RJ Martinez in like the second quarter. Oh, yeah.
Here's a question for the crew.
Sure.
Has there ever been a matchup between two more fun schools than Texas State and Arizona State?
I know.
That's a great question. Probably no. Like if we're talking about like genuine have a good time schools, that if Texas State was a Power 5 school, you would love to take an official visit to both.
Mm-hmm.
if you're a 4-star and you're not even really considering either schools, you would just like to get a visit to both.
Last Saturday was my first Saturday night in San Marcos, and I got a good burger that you recommended. The town was popping.
Yeah. Where'd you go?
Showdown.
Showdown.
Yep.
Yeah. It was
Yep.
where we went to shoot pool. When we went down there. They have
Remember that.
burgers. So shout out Showdown in San Marcos. I don't know how they stayed open for 20 years. but
Well, speaking of fun, the last thing I have on this game is who handles the emotional roller coaster better.
Fair.
Because Arizona
Yeah.
State, that was the first win against an SEC team
Yeah.
that they've had. And Texas State, they talked about how they watched the UTSA game from last year more than any other game. This was the I-35 showdown.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, we're playing on a short week on Thursday.
Yeah, I was about to say, that's the other thing. Here's one quote. I wanted to find this from Jacob Rodriguez up on TextFootball.com. You had a piece, Carter, and then he had a piece as well from that game. One quote from Josh Eaton that I really, really found pretty juicy, that I think may show some other. I'm curious where this weighs more in Texas State's mind. On one hand, yes, the UTSA game weighed in their mind a lot, but this is from Josh Eaton after the game. I feel like that was just somebody in the way. They're little fishes, UTSA. We were not really worried about
hurts.
them. We got something bigger coming up on Thursday. So I don't know if that was just him feeling himself after a win. He's like, "Oh man, that was easier than we thought. Cool, let's move on."
I think it was a little bit of him feeling himself just
Probably.
because GJ talked to, and I mean,
And
this is,
also,
of course,
I'll
the
admit
head
this:
coach.
Josh Eaton is that kind of guy as well. So, like,
He showed up to the post-game press conference with like huge shirt of like all his action shots, and it was like Josh
I
Eaton
love
across the
Josh Eaton
chest.
so much.
But Texas State's got some swagger right now.
There is some swagger, and that could easily go away Thursday. So
Yeah, it could. But counterpoint, if they win this game, it'll be through the roof.
if they win this game, it's full steam ahead.
Choo choo.
I will be ignorant if they win this game. All right, Mallory.
And to round out our headliners of Week 3, Texas Tech hosting North Texas this Saturday at 11 a.m. You can watch it on FS1. Texas Tech, 9.5-point favorites. The over-under, 69.5. Nice.
All right, Texas Tech, one of the best home atmospheres. And if you are wanting to make your trip down to Lubbock, check in with our friends at Visit Lubbock Sports. They are sponsoring one of our, they're doing a high school game for a month, Visit Lubbock Spotlight Game of the Month that Matt Stepp does. And then Craven's doing a preview for every single Tech game, or I believe the Gambling Gauchos. Let me correct that. The Gambling Gauchos, if you're a Tech fan, you know that podcast. They are on the ROF network. They are doing Tech preview. So if you want to hear more of a fan side, right, if you're tired of hearing us trying to be objective, even though I'm loudly saying that I'm full steam ahead for Texas State if they win this Thursday, you want to hear somebody who's people who have been in the dirt and the mud, the Gambling Gauchos got you. And our friends at Lubbock Sports and Visit Lubbock got you as well. So please, if you're making the trip up there, Mallory, I know you were thinking about it because
I
Texas
was.
is going up there. You're going to be checking in with our friends at Visit Lubbock because there's a lot
I
to
absolutely
do.
would.
That is a very underrated destination, especially if you're a sports fan. There's stuff on Friday nights. There's stuff on Thursday nights. It's a college town. Visit Lubbock Sports. All right, let's talk a little bit about it.
Well, if you don't have time to visit Lubbock just yet, let me give you the update. Last week, the YouTube comments were turned off in the press conferences. This week,
Wonder why?
it starts with me territory for Joey McGuire.
Sure,
He's
there you
dropping.
go.
He's dropping. It starts with me.
Yeah. What is Texas Tech?
A team that, if you take one player off their offense and one player off their defense, they turn into a shell of themselves.
What year is it?
Year 3.
Year 3? Should that be happening in year 3?
Probably not.
Okay. For a guy that they didn't recruit.
2, yeah. Well, one guy they did recruit and another guy they did not recruit.
Sure. Yes. The running back they did not recruit.
The running back they did not recruit, and the cornerback they did recruit through the transfer portal.
Fair enough. Look, this is a game that 3 weeks ago I would have said, "Oh, that'd be nice. That'd be probably one that Tech will be a little scared in because North Texas is a little scrappy offense, and that'd be a lot." Now I'm like, they could lose this game. They could straight up lose this game. North Texas against SFA. I know the score was weird, but like it was like a weird. Mallory, you were there. It was like a weird pick six that got him back into the game. I never felt like outside of the
I mean, Chandler Morris made a couple of mistakes he probably shouldn't have
I
as
never
a
felt like
veteran
SFA was,
quarterback.
like, right there with him.
No, it never really felt like it was a race, right? This game feels like whoever's going to get the ball last wins. It's going to be a shootout.
Here's
I
the
think.
thing. Maybe. I do believe that North Texas will dictate that. I don't know. The thing that's going to give Texas Tech faith is that North Texas defense is still probably bad.
Yeah.
But that's the only. I'm not going to be looking at like, oh, Baron Morton can throw for 350 because he's that good. I don't know. Like we're now waiting on him to turn this corner, similar to, let's say, Josh Hoover, right? Who I'm willing to put him in the good bucket. Baron Morton's on the other side of the table. I'm not picking him up. Like I need to see like multiple games put together.
Baron Morton still needs to eat his broccoli before he can come to the good bucket.
Yeah, you don't get the good bucket. You haven't even finished your food. So Josh Hoover is somebody who I had questions about. I think they're very similar, not recruited similarly, right? Different players and out of high school. But like in a vacuum, players who I thought needed to prove themselves this year, right?
Yep.
Teams that bet the house essentially on both of them, right? They didn't go get transfer portal players that with legitimate starting caliber experience or caliber talent. Josh Hoover so far, passed every test. Baron Morton, I think it's hard to say, but it's mostly failed every test. And it's not all his fault either. The whole offense looks bad.
Yep, and Vinny Scuri is out too. He was their best. He was the left guard, best offensive lineman, so that's going to hurt. I know we talk about the offense and Baron Morton, but really the narrative around Texas Tech is this defense.
This defense
right now.
is so bad. For a defense that had shown improvement under Tim DeVito for the past couple of years as well.
They're 128th in the country in total defense, 121st in third down conversions rate allowed, allowing 7 touchdowns and 10 total red zone attempts. I mean, Joey McGuire said he's embarrassed the way they're playing defense right now. And, oh, by the way, you've got Eric Morris, who can probably scheme me at quarterback to score 35 points a game. And he's got Chandler Morris, who they're calling C4. Have you heard this nickname floating around, Mallory? You heard about C4?
I like it, though.
Also, they got 2 wide receivers who can hurt you. Week 1, Damon Ward Jr. had 230 yards. Week 2, DT Sheffield had 3 touchdowns. I'm not sure if Texas Tech has 2 good cornerbacks that can cover both of them.
That's fair. Look, Mallory, what are your expectations for this game from a North Texas fan that knows realistically that this game isn't beyond reach?
Like you mentioned at the beginning of this, Lubbock is a tough place to play, to be fair. I wouldn't be surprised if North Texas went in there and hung with them, but still lost by a score or 2. Just because, again, Lubbock's a tough place to play, and like you said, this is the game that Texas Tech needs to prove themselves. Baron Morton needs to prove themselves because I think next week, entering conference play, right? Well, I guess last week they did play an Arizona State team, the Big 12. But, I mean, the real challenge starts next week. So realistically, as a North Texas fan, heading into this game, I would just expect them to hang close with them.
But Mallory, they only allowed SFA to have 67 yards last week, and they're 6th in the American Athletic Conference in total defense and rushing defense. It's fixed. It's all good now.
Don't get my hopes up, Carter. I don't want to hear it.
Look,
Me and Ish just sat here and were like, jump on the bandwagon of our respective alma maters, and you can't do the same thing right now?
I am feeling as a fan,
Yeah.
I am feeling pretty hopeful in this game. I really am, as a fan.
The thing that needs to happen, and I say needs to happen, is I think, and this is something that's crazy, again, year 3, at this point, they need Taj Brooks to be healthy, Texas Tech. And the fact that they need that, because we know that UT does not have the front 7 to go against a Big 12 running attack fully healthy, right, for a full game. If Texas Tech doesn't have that, I don't know. Like, again, the secondary is still weird. Those guys are still suspended, so, like, that's not really who they thought would be in their secondary, North Texas. But, like, I don't feel confident in them taking it over, right?
No, I don't.
And I feel very confident in Chandler Morris at least getting 300 yards against this. If no offense to Maverick McIver, if Maverick McIver can go 500 or 450, whatever he did, yeah, Chandler Morris can get 300, 350.
The last time Joey McGuire's last game at Baylor was the game Chandler Morris started at TCU and had 500 total yards.
That's awesome.
That rocks.
He's having just more
Chandler,
flashbacks than
hey, C4, baby.
C4 for Heisman.
His sleep paralysis demon.
That is a great nickname, by the way.
Both these teams are 126th in the nation in penalties right now. So this is going to be pretty sloppy. It's gotten to the point where Joey McGuire has hired officials to come to practice and speak with the team post-practice and, like, call penalties.
That's great.
I'm sorry for the audio listeners. I might have my head in my hands right now. That's not good. By the way, that's such a high school move too. He's like, we're going to bring the boys from Tassel over to come talk to you boys about the penalties.
Well, he said he got it from Dave Aranda in the 2021 season where they won the Big 12 championship, actually. So,
okay,
if you see them much improved, then that's a genius move.
Look, we have too many coaches, and by too many I mean two, still clinging on to 2021. That's that's a lot of why the things they're doing is worthwhile. Anyway, speaking of North Texas and speaking of an explosive offense, we were able to sit down with Eric Morris ahead of this big game after a 2-0 start. Again, it's not just a 2-0 start. It's a 2-0 start where they looked really, really good. So we're going to get the info from the man himself. Here's our interview with UNT head coach Eric Morris.
I'm Mike Raven here, Republic of Football, here with North Texas head coach Eric Morris. Coach, how you doing through the first 2 weeks of the season?
Good. So anytime you can start 2-0, I think you're in a good place mentally. Although, last week I think there's a lot of things that we got to clean up. So we're heavy at it right now.
What have you liked the most through 2 weeks of the football season?
Yeah, I think just the way we're playing together. At times it's been offense, at times it's been defense, at times it's been special teams, and people rising up. And there's been times that the other side of the ball hasn't done well, and just I think the love that these players have for one another, the relationships they've built, the trust that they've built within one another. I just think the camaraderie is so much better, and you can feel that positive energy on the sideline when something goes bad for one side. And the other side is there to pick them up. And so that's been, I think this is a lot tighter group than what we had last year, and I think they're playing for one another. And so as a coach, I think that's always fun to see.
Coach, going back to Lubbock this weekend, obviously you played there as a player and coached there for a long time, offensive coordinator. When's the last time you were in Lubbock?
Well, my family still lives in Shallowater, all of them, my two brothers and their families, and then my parents. And so Shallowater is, 11 miles from the University of Texas Tech. And so try to get back a couple times a year just to go see family. And then obviously there's nowhere to eat in Shallowater, so or grocery shop or do anything. And so about 2,000 people, no stop sign. We did get a Sonic a couple years ago after I graduated. It's a big deal. So we make the trek over to Lubbock just to be able to do normal life things, and whether it's shopping or anything. But really excited to see what they built over there. I mean, I think the university's done an incredible job. The donors have done an incredible job and really improved the facilities and turned it into a top-notch facility place in the country right now. So excited to see the South End Zone. I mean, I think it'll be cool to see that new double T. What Cody Campbell and John Sellers have been able to contribute to that place. Those are two of my teammates, two of my good buddies. And so I'm excited just to see how that place continued to grow.
When you were coming up through Shallowater, you were a star football, basketball player. I think you had like 62 touchdowns your senior year. But I read a story that you used to deliver your highlight tapes to Dana Holgerson at Texas Tech weekly. Is that true? Like, I heard you say you recruited Texas Tech or the Texas Tech recruited you.
Yeah, that's 100% true. And so I went to camp. My dad's a basketball coach, so I started off, thinking I was going to play basketball. Had a couple offers to play basketball, and just realized, I'm 5'8", and there's not a ton of 5'8" guys out there dominating the basketball floor. And so Wes Welker was there at the time and was dominating. He was about my size. So I thought, between my junior and senior year, I wanted to transition and see if I could kind of do the football thing. So I went to every camp possible. My mom took me on a journey. We went to SMU, to A&M, to Texas, to TCU, to Texas Tech twice. And so, once I got into that mold, I ran good times everywhere, was able to compete and do a good job in the one-on-one sessions. And so I think I caught their eye then. And then obviously, it was going to be hard for me to get recruited because they already had Danny Amendola committed kind of as their next slot guy and a guy that was going to take over Wes's spot. So that was true, after every, I think they had Sunday night practices. So all day Saturday I'd spend in the film room with my dad and we'd cut it up and I'd make a tape of my highlights. And so, and two, we were playing, not the best competition ever, right? You're playing Milshu and Idlu, but, I'd drop it off and, tell Dana, hey, I only had 7 touchdowns last night, or hey, I only had 6 touchdowns last night. And so every Sunday that was my that was my regimen as I go drop off the tape, he'd watch it. And I think I just bothered him so much at some point, they're like, all right, let's just offer this guy and get him here.
Matthew Dowdy's not going to like that Idalou reference there, SID over there at Texas Tech.
Yeah, they had a good player. Shea Reagan was a kid that was a national recruit, a tight end that was a big guy. And so I lose good, but we were able to get after him and dominate on the floors. I mean, on the court and on the field. And so,
well, you only had 6 touchdowns though.
That's right. That's right. Might have had a couple more that game, but yeah, I was lucky to get around and be able to get into. Not little did I know, I just wanted to play football and get a scholarship. I love competing, and I wanted to compete at that level. And little did I know that I would have coaches that were changed the game of football forever. And Mike Leach and Dana Holgerson, Sonny Cumbie, Art Browse, Ruffin McNeil, Lincoln Riley was there. Dave Aranda was there. I mean, there's just people all over college football that were, eventually become, my mentors.
I see the Leach hat behind you. What was your first kind of story, meeting, impression of Mike Leach, and how did you kind of get the scholarship eventually?
Yeah, he offered me in his office, and so he always did this card. He had 2 ways. He had, this phone trick where he loves magic tricks, so he'd have this phone deal, and they called it the Wizard. And so, he'd have some guy, I don't know, you'd call this number, and the Wizard would talk back to you. But it was always kind of the Wizard knew who was in the office at that point, and they were kind of they were keyed in on what was about to happen. So the Wizard talked to me and said something that I was a really good player and thought that the fortunes would be great if I did end up going to Texas Tech. And then Mike said, hey, I'm going to do a card trick. And then at the end of the card trick, he has the whole deck out. He does a whole elaborate trick. And then he said, okay, Eric, if this whole stack's all red cards and this whole stack's all black cards, then you have a scholarship here. And I was in there with my parents. It was on my official visit a couple weeks before signing day. And really, I thought they thought they were going to get me to walk on for a long time. And then SMU started recruiting me hard late. Coach Bennett was there, was the head coach, and I was going to go on official the next week, and they were going to offer me a scholarship on the visit. And so, but they were all red, they were all black, and my mom and dad were in there. So a special moment for us, and both of my parents being public educators. I mean, to get a free education was a huge deal for me, and then something. The opportunity was something that I ran with. I told Coach Leach, and when he left, he would not be disappointed in the decision he made.
What did your dad think? I mean, your dad's kind of old school high school coach, right? Like, what was his impressions of this motley crew of kind of weird young coaches out in Lubbock kind of changing football?
Yeah, I think it was good. They came and watched me play basketball a couple times. And then, ironically enough, because they knew they weren't going to lose me. But when they came and did my home visit, I think all the offensive skill guys were out of town doing other home visits. Leach didn't have time, whatnot, and so they sent Robert and I, who's I don't know if you guys know who Robert and I is, but a big Polynesian who me and Robert are really good friends now. But Robert doesn't talk much, big tough guy, and so my parents were really excited to have Robert over at the house. And Mom made him a dinner, obviously, and so he comes to shower, and he sit in the corner. We have a chair in the corner that doesn't get used much, and he sit there, and he probably said 5 words the whole entire time that we were there. And so yeah, it was just, I think recruiting was a little bit different back then, obviously. I mean, we didn't have, it was right before all the social media phase, so no Twitter, none of those things, didn't have a profile on Rivals or anything like that, so they gave me 2 stars. I'm still proud of those 2 stars that they gave me on Rivals when I got rated. And so yeah, just a great opportunity for me and my family, and for me to go in and to be able to get my education for free, and then play, right down the road in a Power 4, Power 5 conference at the time was a dream come true.
And your position coaches there are Sonny Dykes, TCU head coach, Dana Holgerson, and then Lincoln Riley, I think, was on that staff too. How did that develop you as kind of an offensive mind that you're known as now?
Yeah, I had all three of those guys in the position room. Lincoln became, once Dana left my senior year, he became my position coach. And so I thought, every one of them was a little bit different in their coaching style. I thought all of them, and two, it's been fun for me to see now in the chair I sit, just the personalities and although they got a message across in a very different way, it was always effective. And so, Dana was a guy that loved to dig on you, and he'd find, some comments that would drive you crazy because, he knew I'd go out there and work hard. So he'd kind of throw some shots at me and Amendola every once in a while. I thought Lincoln was just bright beyond his years. Like he just understood schematics so well, and really wasn't a guy that could tell us, how to release, how to run routes, how to stick your foot in the ground. He kind of just learned that by listening to Dana and Sonny. But you could tell the big picture of the game. Like I learned so much of just understanding what everybody's doing on the whole field and why we wanted to do certain things. I thought he was did a great job of explaining, not just, hey, you have to outside release, you have to inside release, you have to do this first man, but he'd tell you why and go into detail because this is what the quarterback's doing and this is the timing of the play. And so you could tell from an early age that Lincoln kind of really got holistically the schematics of what we were trying to get accomplished.
Now, which one of those three do you think smokes the best brisket? And if you say Lincoln Riley, this interview might be over.
I would say I'm probably. I mean, I'm a true I got a little white trash in me. I'm a true West Texas guy. I'd probably say me. I mean, I like to, hunt, fish. I got 3 barbecue pits in my backyard, and so I stay strong to my West Texas roots probably a little bit better than all 3 of those guys.
What is it about West Texas? Like, what is your favorite part about West Texas? What separates that from maybe kind of the rest of the state in terms of culture and just the people?
You said it just there. I mean, I think the people is what makes it special. Gotten so many text messages this week, and it's a big deal for me. I mean, I told my wife last night. I mean, I told my team on the team meeting yesterday is. This does not need to become a distraction. Like this game has nothing to do with me. Like my time is coming, it's gone. Like it's gonna be cool for me to be back and have some memories when I first get there in the stadium. But other than that, like this is about the kids on these 2 football programs that put in work around the clock 365 days a year to go out here for their one of 12 opportunities that are guaranteed to play. And so I think there'll be a little bit of build, a little bit of emotion, but once that ball's kicked, like it's about our guys, and it should have nothing to do with me. Like I want them to go out there and show what they've been working so hard for. And so although obviously it's a storyline that people are going to pick up on, and obviously being able to a local kid, I played there, I coached there, have a ton of history there. But I'm so locked in and committed to the North Texas football team right now as I want the guys to go out there and perform at a high level.
What is it going to take for these guys to go into a place like Jones AT&T Stadium and come out with a win?
Yeah, another good point there. I mean, I'm excited for them to experience this atmosphere, right? And hopefully it's good as what it's been. I mean, they've done an awesome job, I thought, the last 4 or 5 years getting student support and fan support in Lubbock, not only in football but in basketball. You see these sellouts. They have the basketball stadium rocking. They have the football stadium rocking. They have all these cool people come in to Raidergate now. Shaquille O'Neal's a DJ, and all these great artists come in there. So I think it's such a production, and so just for them to drive into some of these places and see the tailgating and see the fraternities and sororities all out there getting ready, I think it'll be a neat experience for them.
I'm wondering if your recruiting journey, when you talk about like grabbing those 2 stars on Rivals, like kind of recruiting Texas Tech, if that has impacted you as a recruiter, where you look at your career and you were the guy who believed in guys like Patrick Mahomes and Cam Ward now at Miami. Did that have any impact on you as a recruiter?
I've just tried to dig into people and see if they're in it for the right reasons. Like I think there's and especially today now with the money that's thrown into the recruiting aspect now is people with a chip on their shoulder, people that are willing to come in and grind no matter what, and understand that like this is still a physical sport. This is still a mentally taxing sport. And I think not everybody's cut out to do that. And sometimes, you get enamored, with things, that recruiting sites say. You get enamored, with maybe the size or speed of a kid. And you just forget to look at like, hey, are these guys good football players that are good human beings that are willing to go and work well with other people? And so, I think that's the one thing that's thrown a loop a little bit in the portal age and the NIL age is just the team camaraderie. I mean, I think it's so different. I look back at my times in Lubbock, and we went through so many tough times together, and that's what forges those relationships and makes you draw closer together. And so it's harder to do that. I think you got to find ways to really dig in and build relationships, and you got to expedite those processes a little bit more. But I think that, when I'm not afraid to take a kid that's underrated or doesn't have stars, as long as I see it in person and I believe that he kind of checks those boxes I just talked about.
You talk about expediting that process of culture building. And I know over the summer, y'all had dunk contests, you had putt-putt contests and stuff like that. Was there anything you took from your time at Texas Tech over that summer of culture building?
Yeah, so that's where that started. We did the thing called Super Games at Texas Tech. We played water polo. I mean, we had basketball competitions. We did obstacle courses. I mean, Leach would do some wild stuff from time to time. And so, I think that was something that's where I got that idea. And just, it was fun. I think the kids kind of grimace at it at first, and you put them on teams, and it's all these random guys or whatnot. And then by the end of it, you're watching pump, pass, and kick. You're watching, a putt-putt, and these guys are competing and talking trash to one another. And I think that's fun for them, right? As much as we want to say they're not kids anymore because of, kind of what's happening. I mean, these kids are still kids. They're 18 to 23 years old. They like to have fun together. They like to talk a little bit of trash. They're super competitive. And so it was fun. I think at the end of towards the end of that this summer, they were always anxious too, like what's next, what's next, whether it's having soccer shootouts and just, until you see some guys, I mean, shoot, I saw a couple guys that are good athletes, good football players, putt a ball or swing a baseball bat that look just horrific at doing those things. You're like, holy moly, like how are you this good of an athlete on the field and you can't even swing a damn baseball bat? And so it's pretty enjoyable for the coaches too.
All right, Coach. Appreciate you taking time during the week. One of only 4 undefeated teams in the state of Texas, North Texas, on the road against Lubbock. Good luck out there. And what's the bite to eat? Where should everybody go eat before they go to the game?
Oh my goodness, my list goes on and on. My favorite Thai place there is called Thai Pepper, and I'm a big Thai food guy. It's really good. Las Brisas is a steakhouse. Spanky's is a great burger and fried cheese place that's right down the road. So there's a bunch of good options. Kegel Steaks out in the country a little bit, but kind of an old school steakhouse. They don't have many options on the menu, but the ribeyes to die for.
All right, Coach. Appreciate
you. The first thing you said was going to be a Thai restaurant.
I know, and too, like they have. It's my favorite. Check it out, Thai Pepper.
All right, will do, Coach. Appreciate you.
All right, thank you again to North Texas head coach Eric Morris walking us through their start to the season. Seemed like a really good interview. Seems like a really good guy.
I'm still, my head is spinning about him picking a Thai place as the best place to go in Lubbock. What a shout out.
I want to try it now. I'm curious.
I know, right? Maybe our friends at Visit Lubbock know something about that as well.
I bet they do.
There you go.
Hey, Craven looked it up. It's got 4 stars online.
That rocks.
There you go. All righty. So now that we're done with the spotlight, Mallory, let's get into the lightning round.
Only 4 games this week in the lightning round. Up first, UTEP playing at Liberty Saturday at 5 p.m. You can watch it on ESPN+. Liberty coming in as 23.5-point favorites, over under 57.5. Carter handing this one off to you. Probably not much to say about this game. This is a UTEP team that just lost to an FCS opponent, playing one of the best G5 programs people consider in the country.
This is going to be a tough game. Honestly, the next 3 through 6 weeks of the Scotty Walden era is going to be tough. Hunker down UTEP, and also never wear those digit camo uniforms again. They were
Okay. Sam Houston hosting Hawaii this Saturday at 6 p.m. You can watch it on ESPN+. Sam Houston coming in as 4.5-point favorites. The over-under 50.5. Schmale, it's the return of Braden Shager, former Highland Park quarterback.
Listen, that's a guy who needs to get out of Hawaii, but also, why would you leave Hawaii? Why would you leave? I get it, man.
Hawaii's not good.
Look, Sam, unfortunate last week, right? You drew the short end of the straw after a pretty big win against Rice in week 1. This is a Hawaii team there for the taking. You got to be able to take these kind of games where you are clearly the more talented, functional, structured team. Let's see a little bit of that week 1 with Hunter Watson and that defense. Skylar Cassidy, get after it. Don't let Braden Shager go off, because he will.
Baylor hosting Air Force this Saturday at 6:30 p.m. You can watch it on FS1. Baylor coming in as 15.5-point favorites. The over-under 42.5. Carter, handing this one off to you because you told me before this that you really wanted to talk about this game, and you've got some kind of hot take that's been brewing in your heads
it's not
for
a hot
week.
take. It's just a question. Baylor is playing the troops. We respect the troops on this podcast, and they're going Black Ops uniforms.
Okay, that's what it was.
Is that respect or is it stolen valor? I guess we find out based on if they win this game or not. Baylor struggled with Air Force in the past. Remember the bowl game from 2 years ago? Looking to see them bounce back offensively, and Dave Aranda keep dialing it up on defense.
And to round it out, Rice playing at Houston this Saturday at 7 p.m. You can watch it on ESPN+. Houston coming in as 4.5-point favorites. The over-under is 44.5-ish. Take us home. It feels like this is a game that Houston should win.
This is a game they should win. Last year was a game they should have won as well. Look,
correct.
That last week gave me a lot of faith in the bones of what Houston has, because I didn't think it was much. But that also may say something about Oklahoma. I'm going to lean towards it being about Houston. Rice is not as good of a team as they were last year. They showed that against Sam Houston. Sure, Texas Southern, whatever. I think this game is going to say a lot about Houston. I still don't think, even if Rice loses this game, I still can't blame. It's a Big 12 team. Like, how much is there, whatever. I'm moving them on down the line in terms of, like, my evaluation of Rice after that Sam Houston loss. My thing is about Houston. If Houston comes out, which I think they can, win this by double digits, avenge last year, we're Gucci with the Willie Fritz experiment so far.
And SMU has a bye week, and if you missed the beginning of the show or have not seen our news on social media yet, SMU head coach Rhett Lashley names Kevin Jennings as the starting quarterback for the SMU Mustangs from, I guess, at least next week, I'd say.
At least 1 week.
At least
which
1
is more
week.
than they've stuck with one quarterback so far.
Correct.
South Oak Cliff, stand up.
Correct. And then for all of our viewers, again, here is the week 3 slate of the Texas college football season. Kind of that last week before we really start diving into conference play. We've had a couple of conference matchups thus far, but really kind of the last week to see what these teams are made of before we really get into the slate of it all, the conference matchups. So you can find it on social media.
Alrighty, that'll do it for us. So I will plug a couple things. Craven's book, of course, Dave Campbell's Guide to Texas College Football. You can pick it up at texasfootball.com. Please support that if you are a fan of just college football in general. I was going to say the 13 FBS schools, but college football in general that goes on in the state. ROF Network, of course, Republic of Football Network. If you are listening to this, you are likely subscribed to that. Listen to any of the other shows.
The link is
13
below.
shows. Shout out JD Davis of Go Mean Green. He will be taking over our North Texas podcast, which he just announced on Twitter now.
Let's go.
Of course, if you are a UTEP fan, Adrian Broadus has taken over the UTEP pod for us as well. So there's some plugs. And then, of course, new announcement. We are having a new feed for this podcast. We are still uploading to our current feed if you are subscribed to that. But if you just want this show, the Republic of Football podcast, you can go subscribe for look on Spotify, Apple, the Republic of Football podcast - a college football podcast. I know it's a long title. You can refer to us as Republic of Football, but because we are just now entering the algorithm, we got to kind of have a longer name to differentiate us. That is just a solo feed for this very show that you are watching / listening to right now. If you don't want to have a bunch of others in your feed, if you want to keep subscribing to that feed, go for it. We're not going to stop uploading. We may at some point, hint, but not right now. You're still good. But Republic of Football, a college football podcast, Spotify, Apple, anywhere you get your podcasts. We'll start uploading there as well. Not exclusively, as well. So
You don't want to go by the acronym ROF ACFP?
you're right. That rolls so much. Anyway, we may have some off-season discussions about title changes and all that, but as of right now, that is what you look for. Again, it's a white logo. If you're subscribed to the current feed, it's a blue logo. That's kind of the differentiating factor as well. So with that being said, I did not look up who Rutgers is playing. Mike Elko, give us a call, and go Rutgers they beat Akron last week, I saw.
They're 2-0.
They're 2-0.
Rutgers is 2-0?
Look at Mallory. She's got Rutgers, Michigan State, and
Guys,
Texas
all
are
of my
2-0.
teams are 2-0.
They
All
beat
three
Howard
of
and
my
Akron.
teams.
And they have a bye week.
Oh, they got a bye week. That's
Virginia
right.
Tech in a couple weeks, which does not look very good. So I think Rutgers can take that one.
Oh my gosh! Look at our little
Go
Rutgers
Rutgers.
go.